Welcome, everybody. I'm Arthie Moore from Key Leadership Institute, and with me, I have the most phenomenal, incredible founder and MD of Key Players. Stunning. Hey, wonderful to have you with us. I'm so glad I got to steal her away for a few minutes. This incredible powerhouse on my side that I have got the privilege to interview right now has just played the leadership experience with us. And to give you a bit of an idea of what we're talking about, Sharlene Cassel, founder of Key Players, is the most phenomenal visionary that I've ever had the privilege of being with. We were chatting the other day, and one of the things that came out is that she's taking her company to the next levels of success. And I couldn't understand how a person who already is highly successful with the work that she does and how she reignites the visions of companies, from Fortune 500 companies to corporates throughout South Africa and Africa, wanting to take her company to the next level. And as we were chatting, the thing that came to mind is, hey, why don't we play this exclusive leadership experience that we have got in South Africa? And we have got different versions to it. If you look here, we've got communication and the sales edition, and we have got one for teens. Now, what's incredible about this is that we've just got the chance to experience this in the last 2 to 3 hours with Sharlene and her amazing team. Now, sitting with them has been hugely insightful for me personally, because I've gotten to learn from your team and the way that they think and how they are helping you with your company. But the thing that came out for me from watching them is the huge amount of respect they have got for Sharlene. And so it made sense to me to actually sit down and ask her a few questions so that we can share some of our insights and her insights in how this leadership experience has helped her with where she is going in the next levels for her own business. So I'm actually intrigued to find out what this meant to you and how it's going to impact you.
Thanks, Artie, and it's always wonderful to sit with you as the leader of Key Institute and having done so much work in that regard as well. I got really, really excited when I heard about the leadership game, and I was absolutely intrigued, avid follower of the John Maxwell Institute. And I think what was beautiful to see my leadership team today do is engage and communicate very consciously with each other. And what happened was the affirmation that the team is so on the same page and not fearful to actually confront triggers, areas of conflict, because everybody has a voice within the team. And Artie, I've really worked hard on this for the last 6.5 years, like you say, and it's come out of a space of experience leadership through my career. What also was very inspiring today was I've got vision and I've written the strategy in terms of where the company's going to grow. And with the 3 divisions that we have is we have the executive search, we have the recruitment services, the consulting, and in the consulting, a very large developing training company. And how the team understands the importance, one, of varied offerings because of our executives through the years wanting us to work as trusted advisors in the space. And actually what you don't know is if we've just appointed our 100th executive. So it's a huge milestone. The game today affirmed a lot of things with the team. And the trust and the honesty and the integrity with which the team operates really translated through the game today. And having the hard conversations was really easy to have in a very structured, safe space today that enabled the continued conversation. We've worked really hard at our values and in terms of what we line up as. And I think what I found, not so much what I think today, Artie, is that the respect that each person has for each other was really huge. The pain points and the threats that each of the team members see that we have for the next 3 years was very, very, very real. And I've listened very actively, and the follow-up sessions for this in terms of the how now and the solutions are critical. And as you said, we're going to start tomorrow and start implementing and framing those solutions?
I think one of the things that stood out for me that really makes sense in the 2 to 3 hours is the transparency and how people were able to open up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And become solution focused.
Yeah.
And from my takeaway, I've noticed that there's a lot of solutions that your team came out with that I can personally actually use in my own business.
Fantastic.
And it gave me insights, which was really incredible. The other thing that really made sense to me is that everybody felt safe enough to speak up and talk about where the challenges were for them also in their personal life.
Absolutely.
How did you feel listening to that as the leader of this organization with a team that's always, they're skilled so beautifully in all of the areas of experience and where they're heading in the different divisions in your company? But to listen to them opening up and then being solution focused, how did that feel for you as a person?
I think, Artie, what I've found is, as you said, through the years, a lot of work has been done in this regard. It's not something that just happens. And one of our values is that we really care for each other. And so people feel safe when they're having a bad day to come to work and say, I'm not okay today, I need more support. And to listen to their goals and how they frame that again today on their personal space within the context of work and vice versa is something as a leader that I value. Because when a person is able to put their hand up and go, I'm not okay, I need support at work, it makes work an enjoyable, joyful space. And I always say, you've got a job, JOB standing for joy of being. You spend most of the time in your workplace, and that's something that everybody should care about the individual. And it was really beautiful today for me once again to see that coming from my leadership team.
You know, a lot of people would misinterpret the game as something that is specifically only geared towards strategizing for the company. One of the things that I noticed from your team is when they were talking about health and well-being and personal development and self-growth and time out and patience and caring for each other, I also heard a lot about how solid the foundations are for your business has been created by yourself personally and the values you've put into place. Because I am noticing that from the things that they were talking about, they're talking about the holistic side of balancing work and personal life. And it looks like what you've created here has got firm foundations for the growth of everybody, not just development for the business, but for people on a personal level. And I think that's powerful because as a leader, you have created that for everybody as a platform, which allowed everybody in the different questions that came up to be able to even talk more openly about it so that people can be more supportive of where their personal journeys are. What is your personal takeaway in terms of your own personal growth that you have come out with from the questions that were asked?
Well, I think a lot of really good feedback was given to me, and one of the things is I always saw myself as needing to learn and really to listen more. And it was so beautiful how the team actually said, Sharlene listens so actively and she files things. And then the next day comes back, and when we haven't thought she's actually heard us, she comes back with the appropriate and accurate answer, and they value that in me. So something I've really worked on. Also what came out for me is one of the questions were, what does 2 years ahead look like? And my goals and my insights of something that I can improve as a leader and a person now, and what would that look like and impact the business and my personal life in 2 years? Deep question. It's needed myself and everyone around the table to really dig deep to think, because you've got to think. That's a serious question, one that ignites this. Sure, I'm living in the moment, but I actually haven't thought that far ahead. So my two were so exquisite how they came out and lined up within the team. I'd like to add to something else that you mentioned, Archie. You mentioned the personal and work-life balance. I came out of corporate as a listed corporate, and one of the things that I've really embedded in key players very consciously is we're output driven. So everybody knows what they need to be doing. And if one of my staff are not okay and something personal is happening, I really don't mind at all with the connectivity and broadband and fiber within our lives that they actually can have their work from home occasionally when they need that. And I cannot tell you how that motivates every one of my staff because they feel loved, and they are. And also when little things in life happen that your wife or your husband can't fetch the kids, I completely and never even think about that staff member needing to ask me, because if they're happy and they know their family's taken care of, they come back energized because they listen to it work. So that's a really, 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 and we joke about it. We use a lot of humor in terms of each other in this regard because it's so embedded within the business.
That makes such huge sense, because I think that we're currently in a climate in terms of leadership where we're always talking about how can we lead our teams better, how can we become people of influence. But the one thing we don't look at is how can we help people to lead themselves. And what I'm hearing you say right now is that you give your people the ability to make decisions that works for them on a personal level as well as work. And how I know this is true of her is that one of her key players actually spoke about how he loves coming to work. He cannot wait for Sunday to be over so that he could come to work on a Monday, because this is such a beautiful environment where people are kind and thoughtful, they're patient, they're generous of heart, there's a loving, caring environment where everybody has got a vested interest in helping to grow each other.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that a lot of companies battle with is interdepartmental issues and cliques and things like that. But sitting with your team, I noticed that there's no such thing, because they were talking about how when there is a challenge with one of the clients, everybody pulls through and everybody actually pulls with each other, supports and guides each other to make sure they go over and above as a team for the client, and the client is the focus. Which means that you are powerfully leading and guiding and influencing your team in the most incredible way. And what's coming out for me is it's a nurturing environment.
Absolutely.
And that feels like one of the key things that companies can take away from you and your example is how to create a nurturing environment that allows to have the work and personal balance that people crave. Now, from sitting here with you and your team for the last few hours, the things that I read in books and the TED Talks that we listen to that talks about create a welcoming environment, somewhere where people feel like they're happy to come to work. Well, I've just found it, and I've just experienced it for the first time in my life. So the words that we hear and we read in books, I have for the first time personally experienced it in your team, in your office, with your people, and it is mind-blowing. It exists, and it's because of you as a visionary and who you are as a person.
Thank you.
And I love that, right?
Thank you, Artie.
So, one of the things that I'd love for our people to actually hear from you is from you having experienced this for the first time. How do you feel this would benefit other companies to implement this within their teams? What would be some of the incredible insights or takeaways they could get from this?
I think, Artie, in our consulting business, we've done a lot of conflict management and working with broken teams. And I think this game would give your team the ability and the safe space to really, really flesh out those challenges. And then the acknowledgement part of it, of appreciating every single person for finding their voice. And with a team that, yes, Artie, I've worked really, really hard with my leadership team to enable this type of culture. And one of the things we do exceptionally well is conflict. So we definitely bump heads, but we have a baseline of we care and a foundation, like you mentioned earlier. And when that foundation is in place, we know we're going to ride the storm. So for any team that's wanting to enable their team to forge, come out of the storming or be in the storming and forge into a stronger team. I think this John Maxwell leadership game is the answer. I am blown away by the last 3 hours, and what I know this morning, Artie, is I've run a lot of training, and I've really seen that in a morning, the effective change that you can take a team over the line and actually behavior change with a call to action is what's embedded in this team. And I don't think many training organizations or games have that capability. So thank you so much, because we've got so much from today to take forward and work on and take key players to the next